All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this diagram, UML diagram here that I put together that shows this overall view of the observer pattern, design pattern. So as we discussed earlier, the observer design pattern has the subject or the provider and has the observer. So all of the classes that will be notified when things change. The first thing we do, obviously, is we create the subject interface. Now, the subject interface is the provider. We'll have a way for registering objects, observer objects, and registering them, notifying, and updating them. And at the bottom here, what we did, we created an email topic. In this case here, what I'm doing is I am emulating an email subscriber situation where there is an email provider. You subscribe to this email list, and each email list could have different topics, right? So I created here a topic, email topic. That way we can actually select, that way we can actually point to different topics if we wish to do so. Right? So let's say we could even have topics on Star Wars or Star Trek or Harry Potter or programming, whatever, just whatever else we may need. Now you notice this email topic class, Java class, inherits directly our subject interface. Okay, because it needs to be able to know which observer is being connected and what to do with all that information. But you also notice at the bottom we have the post message because it will know how to post a message from this topic so that all or everybody else can actually receive, everybody else in this case who is subscribed to our email topic. Okay? And we have our observer interface at the top left, which has only the update and the set subject. But you also notice this very important common theme throughout our studies here. All of these patterns, all of these design patterns rely heavily on object-oriented programming topics such as polymorphism and compositions and so forth. And of course, inheritance being the main one. Okay. So with that said, you notice there's a lot of composition happening. So we are referencing objects inside of other objects. In this case here in our observer, notice we are setting the subject. We're passing the actual subject class or interface in our set subject. That way we have that pointer ready for us to use. Okay. And at the bottom, we have the email topic subscriber. So this is one of the subscribers, which will then make sure that we update, right? Because it's also directly inheriting from our observer. It will inherit from our interface observer, which means we will take the update method, subject, set subject, and of course, we will also add our own email subscriber constructor to construct our email topic subscriber. This is what we're going to be putting together so we can actually see how it all works. Okay, let's get to it. I've already created an empty project, so go ahead and do that if you wish to do so. And I'm going to go ahead inside resources. I'm going to create another package here. I'm just going to call this interfaces, probably better. And I'm going to call then say model as such. This probably, let's refactor this. Just call this interface. Oh, I think we need to keep it like that. All right. So what we're going to do here, the first thing I'm going to create is this subject. So I'm going to go ahead and put together our subject interface here. This is our provider, right? This is the satellite if we go back to what I've shown you in the previous video, example, in the previous video. Okay. Let's create that. So this will be responsible for registering, notifying, and of course get updates. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so right click inside of our interfaces. I'm going to say new Java class, and I'm going to call this subject. Okay, this is going to be, of course, an interface. And it's going to be to have a few methods. The first method is going to be, let's say, public void register. And we're going to pass observer. Right? We haven't created it yet. It's going to have an error there. That's totally fine. Say public void unregister. We'll also pass the observer as well. Say public void notify observers. Okay, I won't pass anything. And then I'm going to create a get update method. Now this method is going to return an object. So I'm just going to say public object type such. The generic object could be any type of object. Let's say get update, and I'm going to pass, of course, our observer again. All right, so what I'm going to do now, just to get rid of this, I'm going to go ahead and create an observer interface. So I'm going to right click here, new Java class, call this observer. Okay, this is going to be also an interface as such. Okay, our interface is going to be very simple. I'm going to say public void, say update, and then say public void set subject. And to set a subject, we're going to pass the subject class, which we created earlier here, subject. Okay. So we've now created these two. So we have the observer and we have the subject. Now we're going to go ahead and create concrete classes, model classes here. Email topic and email topic subscriber. Now the email topic, of course, as you see here, it will implement our subject because we want to make sure that we take advantage of all of the methods that comes with our interface. So let's start with our email topic. All right, so I'm going to go inside of a model here, say new Java class, and let's call this email topic. Now this is going to implement our subject class, and for that to work we have to, of course, implement certain methods. We're going to select all of them, and there we go. And at the top here I'm going to instantiate or create a few instance variables. The first one, let's say private, create a list. Okay, this is going to be a list of observers. Okay, and I'm going to call this observers. Okay. And then I'm going to say private. I'm going to create a string, call this message, right? Because we have here, remember, we are going to create this message there. Instance variable, very good. And I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and create a constructor. Let's just initialize our observer list just like this, right? So that it's ready for us to use. And at the bottom, we're going to go ahead and say public void. I'm going to call this post message. Right, so what we're going to do, we're going to pass our string m message here. Let's just say msg. So we're going to say s out, and I'm going to say message. Let's see, it's going to be a string. I'm going to say message posted to my topic. And I'm going to pass the message. And here I'm going to go say this, that message, right? I'm going to set to our message as such. And I'm going to call the notify observers. And we're going to set up our notify observers in all of these override methods in a second here. So what's going to happen here is every time we post a message, what we're going to do, we're going to set, of course, the message instance variable to whatever message we're passing, and we're going to make sure that we call the notify observers, because this is the whole idea. We want to notify all of the other observers that are around that, hey, something has changed, that means you have to update as well. Okay, now let's go ahead inside of a register an observer. So what we're going to do here, just to make things a little bit cleaner, I'm going to just say if observer is not null, or is null. If it's null, I'm going to just say throw new null pointer exception, and we're going to pass, say, all object. observer such, okay, just in case. And then I'm going to say if observer list that contains an observer of this type that we are passing inside of our observers list does not have this current observer here, because we want to make sure that we're not duplicating things. If that's the case, what we're going to do is we are just going to go then say observers. We're going to add this current one to the list. Then add. I'm going to add our observer as such. Okay, that's all. So we're just registering our observer. To unregister our observer, well, we're just going to go ahead and say observers list dot remove, and we'll remove our observer, just like that. To notify our observers, well, we know that it's going to be a list of observers, so we have to loop through that list and then do the notification or the updates. So I'm going to say for observer in observers in our list. So inside here, I'm going to go and say observer dot update. Okay, that's all. So to notify, I'm going to loop through all of our observer list, which will contain all of these different observers, and I'm going to just update all of them. Now, the get update here, what we're going to do, we're just going to go ahead and say this. You can just return the message that has been updated. Okay, and that's it. So we are now done with our email topic. Notice this email topic again implements our subject. That's why we are able to then override all of these methods. So in the next video, we're going to go ahead and finalize and put together other classes. Namely, will be our email topic subscriber, and then we're going to create a test class. That way we can test and see our observer design pattern working. All right, perfect. I'll see you next.